I live in Brooklyn. People fall off
Yes.
bridges all the time. They put
Mhm.
safety measures on the subway stations, and it's like nobody's going like, oh, the subway isn't what it used to be because there's guardrails on it now. You know what I mean?
Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another recording of Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm Jordan. I'm here with Brianna Ludwig. We're a day after the All-Star Game 2026, getting ready for the second half of baseball on the major league level. But there's always things happening at Foul Ball Safety Now. We're excited to bring on our guest host shortly, but I usually like to talk about how foul ball safety now started and kind of fast forward where we're at today. So foul ball safety now started back in 2019 when I saw something very disturbing on the news, which involved a child getting hit by a hard line drive in Houston. And soon after, I met with somebody by the name of Brendan, who became part of Foul Ball Safety Now. We started something called Foul Ball Safety Now, and he's been with me all this time. We're definitely staying the course and making sure we are in a position to constantly collect and monitor the status quo and how business as usual is being conducted. So in that time, we found out about things from before I started back in 2019 and things that continue to happen up until now. We've interviewed 90 people, more or less 90 people, mostly victims and baseball players, but there's been a lot of other people we've interviewed, like lawyers and broadcasters and statisticians and other people. So we have a really rich archive of many files. And eventually we'll be producing our first book, which is about a child that nobody knows about, a lawsuit that was going on for many years, about 8 years. A lawsuit was going on. And then the law firm called me, found me, and said, hey, we would probably need your help preparing for trial coming up very soon. Brendan got the introduction and was contracted by them to do a lot of hours worth of work to help them prepare for their trial. And at the time, this was last year in the summer of 2025. And we learned soon after Brendan's work was done with that law firm that there was a settlement in the case. And it was a baby that was struck by a baseball bat almost 10 years ago. Major League game, you could see it on TV, ESPN. You see the bat going into the stands, into the seating area, and it hit the mom and the infant child. And from that moment, the baby was struck. They were on their own. There was no team doctor with them at the emergency room and nobody making calls to see how they were doing in a genuine way for 8 years. So this family had to resort to finding their own doctors and eventually found an attorney. And it's been a hard journey for this family. And we learned that this case was settled at the end, and the settlement was more or less like minimal care for the child, who unfortunately grew up nonverbal with traumatic head injury. And maybe the boy is 8 or 9 now, and maybe his academic or his intelligence is like a 2 or 3 year old. And all the doctors said through the depositions that we read that it was because of the bat. So what we're doing is we're able to produce a book based on depositions and testimonies, pre-trial stuff. I think it's going to be very compelling, and I think most people who hear about this story will be like, why did this family get treated like that, and why is it 10 years later or whatever it is now, as we're just discovering new bats are flying into seats all the time. New bad incidences we're learning all the time. Last year on the website, we put on something, the T-Mobile link on Foul Ball Safety. Now you see the bat going into the stands, like a broken bat, and it's like a boomerang that could basically spear your heart or neck. And you even hear the announcer when showing it on replay when they were going to commercial break. He says, "Yikes! Look out!" And nobody on social media said, wait, didn't anyone see what I just saw? A broken back coming into the seat that could spear your heart or your neck? But it kind of blends in to Americana and baseball and wholesome and apple pie, and nobody stopped to realize that that could really smash you. Not anyone on social media. So there's a lot of penetration needed, conversations like these that need to happen that open our eyes to the realities. So there were no internal lessons learned, unfortunately, from this incident with the baby. We're aware of 2 bats that have gone over nets this year. One Yankee Blue Jays game, I think it was a broken bat, and then a Cleveland Indian player, we just discovered the other day back in May, bat goes into the stands. I think both of them were at Yankee Stadium. But either way, and there was one last year at Yankee Stadium and in Seattle. So we don't wanna just single out Seattle and Yankee Stadium. But obviously, no internal lessons are being learned, and potentially there's carnage coming because bats are making their way over nets in 2026. That's pretty dark to me. That being said, it's been a great experience just having these recordings with guest hosts who may have just found out about this matter that we've been working on for all this time. And what we do is sort of like an ongoing grand jury of a few. We keep on collecting things, and all of our guest hosts are coming into the grand jury pool for a day, investigating with us. We appreciate that. And some of them will come back to us, we hope, with other ideas, but work needs to be done, whether we get an indictment in the court of law or the court of public opinion. Hey, that's what we do. We want to breathe life into an issue that needs to be addressed. And we have a few new people that we met just in the last few months that have unfortunately been part of the less than 1% injured club. We have something at the website called Fallible Safety Now, which is less than 1% injured club. And obviously, with 100 million fans, we don't think there's been 1 million life-altering experiences over 100 years, but there's been enough evidence that there have been thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and there's always new entries into the less than 1% injured club. And we believe the fans of America are gonna feel bad when they read our book and understand that this could have been them, and people can retrace their steps by going to Exhibit A1 at Fallible Safety Now, a published report from 2019. Brendan and I incorporating a lot of our own research. It'll demonstrate just how many hundreds of thousands of balls that go foul inside and outside of ballparks. I say outside because there's 2,400 plus major league games a year, but there's 14,000 other professional games every single year, and balls are hitting people outside ballparks, like in Modesto, California, where it's not once a year when a ball hits the pavement or the window or the car. It's one or many times where balls are reaching the outside, and it's not very good to have a business that way. And they're not looking to prevent this from happening. There's 30 MLB clubs, there's 120 affiliates, and many other professional teams, and they should be working on fixing the problem and making sure that people like Brianna, who are young parents, know exactly where to park the car, no strings and conditions attached. What a concept. Can we do that in 2026? We just flew to the dark side of the moon. I think we can figure it out. And architects, engineers, and designers, I don't think have ever really been fully engaged with MLB on this, or MLB has not hired the team of architects, engineers, and designers that have shown that they're worthy of $1 billion organization's relation. So I don't think there's ever been anything in place like a team of architects, engineers, and designers. In my mind, since 1970, when a 14-year-old boy unfortunately got hit and died at Dodger Stadium, it's probably been more like one guy wearing too many hats inside of MLB that's been responsible for implementing or upgrading or whatever. Balls are still making their way over nets. We just discovered almost 30, maybe 28, 29, just in the first 3 months of the year. And last year we discovered around 45. And this is mostly for major league games, and we believe there's 5 times many more games in minor leagues. So I feel like if we had more researchers like Brendan and Brianna, we'd probably find a lot more things. Brianna, how are you today?
Doing great, Jordan. Happy to be here having this conversation. This is America's game, and safety is very, very serious. So I'm happy that we can talk about it today and shed some light on this topic. Without further ado, I'd love to invite on our guest host for the day. He is a comedian, performer, and enthusiastic baseball fan. Welcome, Jake Lemonade.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Hey, Jake. We're excited to have you. No, you're a big baseball guy, I recall, right?
I am. I know this is just an audio only podcast, but if you could see my face right now, I'm actually wearing my Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp hat at the moment. So
Oh,
definitely
okay.
big fan of Major League Baseball and minor league baseball all the same. I mean, I guess I'm just curious to have kind of a conversation with you and learn a little bit more about everything. I mean, I've obviously,
Mhm.
I guess, a little bit of my background. I'm born and raised in Florida, so I spent my whole childhood going to a lot of minor league games, a lot of spring training
Mhm.
games. My family were huge Red Sox fans. My mom's from Boston, so we spent my whole childhood traveling the Red Sox, following the Red Sox around all their
Right.
spring training games. I had caught a lot of foul balls in my day, so I definitely have
Mhm.
a love for the American ballpark. But yeah, I mean, after our conversation a few weeks ago, it really shed
Mhm.
some light to me on some changes. So I've done a bit of research on the comparisons and contrasts between American baseball injuries from foul balls and Japanese baseball injuries from foul balls.
Mhm.
And then two, yeah, I guess I'm just curious to hear more about the minor league stats as well, because I do love following some of those things around too. And I think that's probably something that doesn't get anywhere near as much a light shed on it as obviously a Dodger Stadium or Yankee Stadium
Sure.
injury.
Well, with the minor leagues and the indie leagues, I
Hmm.
could just only imagine how many balls are coming close to hitting people. Sometimes
Hmm.
you've heard the sound guy, the organ player,
Hmm.
make the sound of the window crashing, like a little
Yeah.
sarcastic sound as the ball is leaving the ballpark. But
Hmm.
that ball is going to find a destination. But it would
Hmm.
also be fair. He should come up with a sound that makes this yeah, I don't know what it sounds like of a ball thumping somebody's head, 'cause
Yeah.
that would be fair to do that, and if they did do that, would he still have a job? Would he be like, "How dare you?" Or it would
Hmm.
be like, "No, I this sound I got the job a year ago, and it was already in the system to push that button to make the sound
Hmm.
of the window breaking." So, he thought after looking at the website that it was also realistic that there are camp buses parked outside and there are
Hmm.
school kids boarding. They get there late, they leave early. It's batting practice. Balls are going outside into the parking lot. It hit the lady in the head in Modesto. So let's just be real about it. Why is professional baseball allowing Brianna and her young child to park the car where there's definitely strings and conditions attached? Nobody wants a mini missile in the face. And that's what basically goes down. And there's substantial proof that one or many balls in 3 or 4 hours are going to hit the pavement or the window or potentially people. And we're in 2026, and that's going on. So the next lawyer who calls me will also be in a position where they're trying to recover for their client. And at the same time, doesn't mean that the situation is going to be remedied. They know in advance. Where are the preventive measures? Jake, maybe you've been to many more games, or do you feel like it's just the experience has been like, if you think about it, the bottom line is they realize that
Hmm.
so few people of the millions will be affected. Let's
Hmm.
not worry about it. And I think that's been their attitude. And
Yeah.
I call it the less than 1%.
Oh no, I think I agree with you. I think it almost comes down to it's funny to me, I guess, in doing some of my own research on this and just talking to, friends and family from my generation as well as older generations. I think the common thread that I found is you're both getting the ballparks and these companies, obviously have to err on the side of statistics and risk reduction from a liability standpoint. But then it's almost like a culture thing. One of the things that, I mean, maybe funny is not the right word, but when I'm
Mhm.
talking to friends my age, I'm a cusper between Gen Z and a millennial right here. We're all, I
Uh-huh.
think everyone, when I pitched this idea to some friends, we're all like, oh yeah, why would you not extend the foul ball nets all the way to the foul poles? Those kind of things. Why wouldn't you
Mhm.
implement some of these more Japanese style safety precautions like the having the warning sounds or the announcements coming
Mhm.
through. But then I talk to like, not to, I guess, placate it this way, but a lot of the like
Sure.
boomer generation, and they
Yeah.
hit you with the same, kind of conversation that they do about anything in America, where they're like, "Oh, it's tradition," or "Oh,
Right.
it becomes this like conversation of like, should foul ball safety netting really be boiling down to like, what does it mean as an American to be in our society? I think it kind of,
Sure.
it should be as American as apple pie to go to a baseball game, but it shouldn't be at the risk of, your child growing up nonverbal.
Right. Right.
But it's like a generational rift. I talked to some of my family and friends who obviously
Uh-huh.
Fenway Park, oldest baseball park in America,
Right.
historic landmark, and they're like, you can't change anything about the park, and it's like, sure,
Sure.
I mean, I'm not asking you to knock down the green monster, but I'd like there to be some safety netting or something in place. So I live in Brooklyn, people fall off
Yes.
of bridges all the time. They put
Mhm.
safety measures on the subway stations, and it's like nobody's going like, oh, the subway isn't what it used to be because there's guardrails on it now. You know what I mean? I think that's what I've found most interesting is, and I'm curious to hear like what it's been like from your perspective. I think obviously there's a lot of public support that comes from people that have been victims of this or,
Mhm.
run into the issue, but from just like a general public, I guess what's been kind of the response from maybe some detractors or people that like, what are people saying against this?
Right. Well, most of the people Brendan and I have interviewed, unfortunately,
Mhm.
they don't become spokespeople. They're very
Sure.
gracious with their
Yeah.
time, and they give us 30 minutes or 45 minutes on an
Mhm.
interview, and they revisit something that happened. Erwin Goldblum has been to 7 of our virtual press conferences. He had the worst loss. His wife was unfortunately killed at the Dodger game in 2018. There's really not too many people or organizations that are focused on this and speaking up very loudly about committed to the conversation. Let's finally establish a foul ball safety now truth commission. So this conversation won't be just the three of us. Here's something you need to absorb. And the powers that be need to stay in the room until the information that we have and others want to contribute is digested. Until then, baseball has us where they want us as unconditional supporters. What could be ever wrong with baseball? And the people like you may have mentioned, like the baby boomers who don't want to even go to that conversation, who say it's tradition and we need to keep it up. Brendan and I have met some hardliners. We've interviewed more than 30 baseball players. A few years into this, I reached out to maybe 3 or 400 baseball guys, were either owners of baseball schools or academies. Many of them had professional experience, mostly past players. And even the hardliners within 15 minutes, once they're in the zone with us, in the conversation with us, they realize maybe 4-year-olds should not be subjected to this. When people look at Exhibit A, 2019, well, that was the published report from 2019. Brendan and I took that report in 2025 and put our own research and combined the two, and we call it Exhibit A1, where you could retrace your steps. You'll see hundreds of thousands of foul balls that are happening in professional baseball that find a destination. And MLB won't be able to dodge the question if it's persisting that how many of those balls, of those hundreds of thousands of balls, were really going at 100 or at crazy speeds into those exposed areas. So we have a right to know that. And once the general public finds that out for themselves, you'll almost retrace your steps and say, oh, wow, we went to games 3 times a year over 10 years, and that was 30 times. That could have been a very life altering experience. Maybe they even witnessed popcorn popping or beers exploding once or twice. But they didn't put 2 and 2 together, Jake. Nobody ever left after a beer exploded, right? We all kinda laughed it off.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think that's to me what seems like the biggest pushback for change here is obviously there's always going to be, it's the same thing as I guess the difference with baseball versus like football or, these other sports is like any contact that's happening, it's like you're only subjecting the players to. I guess that baseball is one of the only sports where the liability can land in like the lap, literally, of the fan base. So much in that way. Because like if a basketball bounces out of the court, you're not going to have that leaving at 110 miles an hour heading towards a fan. But yeah, I do. I guess that's the thing. I have so many like uncles that have like these
Mhm,
like glory war stories of, oh, there's one time we saw a guy get hit in the face with a ball, or and it's like
mhm,
a raucous, like fun, tale for them to
mhm,
tell. Whereas I
mhm.
think that to me it seems like that might be where some of the biggest pushback from either industry or the MLB players that aren't fans of these changes are coming from. To me, I mean, I don't. It's like wearing a seatbelt. Like
Mhm,
I'm still taking the risk of driving, but it's like I'd rather have
mhm.
as many safety precautions in the car as I can. It's I think definitely like driving safety's improved because of
Mhm.
things that have happened in the past. So I don't see why we wouldn't want to make that same change, with
Yeah,
baseball.
I don't mind adults wanting to flirt with danger or death. I got no problem if you really wanna run with bulls in Spain, but you really shouldn't be having the kiddos next to you, and I think that's a big, big issue. People are saying that the players and they feel bad, but, I kinda hold the accountability almost equal for lack of action to the MLB Players Union. Because Jake, supposedly, Brendan and I discovered several times in collective bargaining, the issue actually came up of netting.
Oh,
So
interesting.
but I'm like, really would love to see exactly what those minutes of those meetings were, because I don't really know what you would say. I think the only thing the MLB Players Union can say to the MLB negotiators is, guys, we just haven't gotten it done. Bats are still making their way over nets in 2026 and slamming people. This is above our pay grade. And the team at MLB's netting is not sufficient. They're not the right architects, engineers, and designers worthy of all of our time. And we need to finally outsource here. And until we do that, our guys aren't hitting balls at babies' heads anymore. And I think by them not negotiating like that, like it's a non-starter, Jake, they should be saying, "No, no, no,
Yeah.
no more." And me, with a little bit of probing, is finding out that they're not Martians, baseball players, they are human beings. And
Yeah.
young players are telling me they have anxiety. But I came up with a new statistic called a
Mm.
present traumatic stress disorder because I have a courtship. I have a continuation of conversations with new baseball players because I incentivize them to organize conferences. So
Mhm.
I'll pay a baseball player to get 10 buddies in a room together so we could talk. It gives them a safe space to tell me their anxieties. Stuff I'll hear like, Jordan, every time I swing the bat, I have anxiety. Jordan, on kids' nights, my feelings really spike. And this started, Jake. I was
Mhm.
really only concentrating for 6 years on professional baseball,
Sure.
but when a student athlete contacted me from Queens College in New York,
Mm.
I realized the matter may even be worse at college because he
Mhm.
said, "Hey, Jordan, Google Earth Queens College. You'll see there's an elementary school outside of our field, and we're worried the balls are going over the side."
Sure.
So on my website, I have Queens College NCAA investigation.
Mhm.
So 5 letters into the experience, on letter number 4, a Queens College student reporter actually had the courage, got a quote from the athletic director. I didn't single
Wow.
Queens College out as the only offender. And
Mhm.
Brianna and I, we just did a simple Google Earth on D1, 2, and 3, and we see 46 fields, and they seem to all look like they're connected to neighboring fields. Like
Sure.
a parent called me from a place called White House, Tennessee. There is a place called White House, Tennessee,
Mhm.
folks. I've said this before. He said, "Hey, we can't have soccer going on while baseball going on." I was like, "I'm glad you're
Yeah.
talking about it." So why
It's
are parking lots and neighboring fields exposed to mini
Mhm.
missiles? All
Yeah.
worthy of conversation, but all worthy of solution if it's finally committed that we're gonna make sure that conversation's addressed and no more willy-nilly balls going on different parkways and highways and, this seen some local news clips on that recently. But if MLB and professional baseball that had billions of dollars available and created a
Mhm.
baseball civilized society for all, no strings and conditions attached for Brianna and her child inside or outside, You
Mhm.
know, inside she should be able to go in and know exactly where to sit and get up and have a snack. What a concept. She should know exactly where to park the car. And if these billionaires ever got their house in orders, wow. I'm telling you, they'd be adopting local zip codes, and maybe the parks and the local high schools and all of the places would have an entirely different look to it in the future. But
Mhm.
right now, there's problems in every zip code. So it wasn't on my radar to get involved with all the zip codes and all levels of
Sure, sure.
people, but we've had really interesting guests. So we want to address it. Listen, we just flew to the dark side of the moon. I could be a visionary. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I just having this conversation with you has made me re-sparked a memory. I mean, obviously, it wasn't
Yes.
anywhere near D1 or D2, but I was in,
Uh-huh.
I believe, like fourth or fifth grade, and we were playing like
Uh-huh.
baseball for my PE class. I wasn't known to be the most athletic kid on the team, but I cracked a
Right.
home run one day. Then, just out
Right.
of excitement, chucked the bat behind me, and
Right.
the PE teacher who was playing our referee. Was standing like playing umpire for the game, but like not
Right.
behind any sort of protective cage. It was just in like
Right.
regular shorts and t-shirt and shoes, and the bat ended up breaking her shin.
Mm.
So and
You broke your shin,
yeah,
Jay.
I
But
broke
y
up my
yeah,
PE teacher's shin, and it's
but, you
I'm
know,
I'm
listen.
perpetuating the issue, but it's one of those things that like I
Oh,
hadn't even
I
thought of that
when I played
thought of that
Little League,
story in years. Yeah.
I threw a bat or 2, and I had a
Oh yeah.
but it was unintentional. Sometimes
Yeah. Exactly.
you're throwing the bat, and you're running to
Hmm.
first base, you drop the
Exactly.
bat, and some people, you gotta throw the bat or drop the bat, and it takes
Hmm.
some time to have the, instincts to get it done right. It
Yeah, of
happens.
course.
It
But I mean,
happens.
it's like I think about, when you look at batting practice, you see the
The
people that are pitching,
reflexes.
yeah, the
Mhm.
people are pitching out the balls to the people doing batting practice have that protective netting right in front of them.
Sure,
And so
sure.
it's like, they're getting, the risk of balls getting hit directly at them all the time too.
Of
So, but
course.
they went ahead and took that step for their managers, their coaches, the players that are doing those things for them. So I guess the thing that's really interesting to me is I understand the hesitancy from like the MLB parks and the owners of the teams to want to implement these things. But I am curious. I would love to hear some follow up on these players' union conversations because as a player, I mean, it's no cost to you as a player and to your union further secure and make your fans safer at your games.
But why do
So
you say you think it's a cost thing? What are you
I
trying
I
to
I have to imagine, like, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a billionaire, which as a as a comedian in New York City, I don't know if I could ever do.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but
And
from
when you say a
yeah,
cost thing, it can't be a cost thing, even if it
yeah,
was $1,000,000.
uh-huh,
It can't be a cost thing. It's usually a lot less. We've heard of different
mhm,
upgrade costs for minor leagues but again, who's deciding how high, far, and wide the nets should be? So again, it's
exactly,
still worthy of a discussion. To make it a baseball civilized society for families like Brianna,
mhm,
whether it costs 50,000 or 200,000, first let's commit to creating the baseball civilized society. Jake,
mhm,
it won't be about the dollars. It's billionaires. So
exactly.
it's really a one-time cost of 100,000 or 300,000 or 100,000. It's not the money. It's a matter of like, are we really committed to finally
Mhm,
giving no strings and conditions attached to the fan experience? Or shall we continue on as business as usual? And yes, there'll be always new injuries into the less than 1% injured club. And
for
that's no
sure.
way to carry on their operation. And I want everyone to realize that you're not in a position to defend yourself. We're not action figures and we're not superheroes.
Mhm,
And when people start saying, and owners start even saying and they know the data, they knew
mhm,
since 1970 when the 14-year-old boy got hit at Dodger Stadium and died, that was certainly the winter to have a conversation with the fan base.
mhm,
And my
mhm,
lawyer's friend who was blinded in New York in 1979, she was very
mhm,
nice. Jenny revisited her experience with us after many years of, being blinded in one eye, and she even shared with us about her 8-year-old playing Little League when he was growing up. And he quit baseball because I think he was making his mother feel nervous. She told
mhm,
us that she was having anxiety. This was even years after she was blinded about her 8-year-old playing Little League. And
Uh-huh.
maybe the 8-year-old felt like he didn't want to make mom nervous and he's quit baseball. And maybe that 8-year-old is now 30 and a new parent. And maybe he's saying to his child, you don't want to play softball or baseball. Look what happened to your grandmother. These
Sure.
families are screwed, man. No
Yeah, I
more
mean,
wholesome apple pie, unconditional love. You see, most
yeah.
family trees won't ever have that experience.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's going to be, let's go out to the ball game, la-di-da-di-da. But it's not that way for many people that have that rude awakening
For sure.
that, "Oh, shit, this sucks. This happens at games." Mhm. So those are the people that we've come in contact with.
Mhm.
And we really do believe that the 99 percenters and more will clearly welcome this. Even the hardliners, even the people that you mentioned, like maybe some of those baby boomers that are traditionalists,
Uh-huh.
they're gonna be like, "All right, I'll meet up with Jordan's evidence for a few minutes, and then we'll present. We're a grand jury of a few, and we'll keep on flying." New people come in every day with us, and we appreciate that. But we believe there'll be some shape or form of an indictment, and we
Uh-huh.
believe our first book will certainly pull on America's heartstrings. The 99 percenters aren't there to preserve the legacy. They're there to know what they may have missed. I think we're still
Exactly.
hungry for more. We should always be hungry for more. If there was something we missed, tell us. All right.
Mhm.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing for the last 7 years, man. I'm trying.
I completely agree. I mean, I think we've
Good.
seen the change get made with, the head trauma injuries in football, and we've seen a lot of like actions taken in that direction. I mean, I was a child of parents who didn't want their kid playing football for that very reason. So I think the
Right.
way that that's trickling into change making in other sports as well as for the fan experience too is so great. So do you
Yes.
feel the biggest hindrance to change is just accessibility and information and people getting that out there? Because it seems like once you
Yeah.
hear the stats, it's like an immediately, "Of course, this is a crazy idea that we haven't
Well,
worked with
I mean,
already."
I
But what do
I
you think
I
the biggest, like, hold up to change is beyond just, like, these
well,
teams not wanting to,
well,
shell out the cash or change the form
yeah.
the art form or what's the
Yeah, yeah. So, clearly my job is to bring the epiphany of awareness. I give MLB and the MLB Players Union an F for not getting it done. You guys, once you learn about it, will decide just how big and fat that F really may be.
Mhm,
Then I did my job because then we can go out to lunch, Jake. You,
mhm.
Brianna, and I can go out to lunch because people are now concluding status quo F. And then after that, let them work it out. Let them say, now we're going to get out of the dark ages because we're in the dark ages 2026, Jake. When there's traumatic head injuries happening all the time, I have to say that those families did not go expecting that experience. And I think most people will agree. And again, we're having a conversation. Yeah, I'm painting the picture of a failing grade, period. And once people enter into this conversation, they'll either agree or not, or they'll go to even take it a little bit further than I will. And I'll be like, fine. So you actually think the F is worse than I said? Wow. Good. And I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a psychologist, but I do know the psychological well-being of the student athletes. They
Mhm.
have the desire to play the game free and clear. And I want them to have that opportunity, Jake. Don't you want them to have the opportunity to play the game free and clear and
Oh,
hit it as
entirely.
hard as they want and have a
Yeah.
free conscience? Well, unfortunately, they've inherited it from previous generations who
Mhm,
haven't successfully addressed it maybe when they were going through it as a 20-year-old.
mhm.
They maybe just continued to tell their moms and dads about best places to park and best places to sit. But they
Uh-huh.
didn't really go as a union all in on what I'm trying to do is create
Sure.
baseball, civilized
Yeah.
society.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
there
getting
you
getting
go.
getting Woodstock. We're getting a Woodstock team together for it.
Yeah, yeah. Now
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a baby boomer, but I'm an infant baby boomer.
there you go.
I'm the baby boomer. I'm the infant
The
baby.
baby
So
of the
I
boomer.
want to tell my older brother, baby boomers and sisters, get off that idea and let's
Yeah.
look at what we found out. I'm at the 7 years. The least you could do is consider it. And they
Mhm.
do, and then we can get more minds on board with conversation. It's above my pay
Mhm.
grade for certain things, but the 3 of us could certainly spark more. And you can be part of a permanent library with us, which we appreciate,
Mhm.
and people will reference, our recording in a while from now and say, "Oh, what did those guys talk about back in July?" So that's what we
Right.
have at Foul Ball Safety Now, and we're excited that you're part of this with us.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot so far, and I'm excited to keep cracking this egg and make a few omelets out
Yeah.
of it.
Definitely, definitely. It would be
Mhm.
great if some of the victims were spokespeople, but I'm trying my best. We met a woman in Los Angeles. We met her a couple of months ago. She was smacked very hard by a
Oof.
ball that went over the net, and she has to consider 12 months later whether she's going for like sinus surgery. She had to go to our high
Mhm.
school reunion all bruised
Mhm.
up. So I said to her, "I'd love to come to LA and meet your high school class." So she hasn't seen anyone in almost a year. So it was in May in 25. So she goes to her high school reunion in June of 25.
Mhm.
She was seriously black and blued. So she
Mm.
obviously stood out. Her friends hadn't seen
Sure.
her in all this time, all her friends from high school, long time
Mhm.
reunion. So I said to her, I said, "How about if I come to LA? They'll still remember what happened a year ago. The woman they met, who they hadn't seen since high school, came to the reunion all bruised. And she probably had to
Yeah.
explain to so many
Mhm.
people, this is what happened to me at the Dodger game a month
Yeah.
ago." Right? So
Mhm.
I hope we'll have some connection or lasting connection with her. And maybe I'll come out and I'll rent a room and she'll invite
Mhm.
100 people because Dodger
Yeah.
fans should be empathetic that balls are still making their way over the nets. And we're finding that's not a Dodger, just not in
Yeah.
Dodgerland.
That's
We found
everywhere.
45 and 20, 45 injuries, self-reported people, self-reported injuries, people reported on TikTok. And
Mhm.
there's so far this year, between 25 and 30 new injuries, bats injuring people. And this is
Mhm.
only halfway through. And this is mostly major league level, 5 times as many more games in other professional baseball. So we're going to keep on making the noise, beating the drum, sounding the alarms, fire in the theater, status quo, foul ball safety now. But we're trying to do it in healthy aggression.
100%. I guess, my last,
Yes,
like,
of
big
course.
question for you is obviously
Yes.
as we're trying to create this baseball civilized society, what
Yes.
does the utopia look like? Like, what is the end goal? What would be the perfect, solutions as best we can to get these, things across the finish line,
Oh,
all
man.
said and done?
Oh, wow. Well, I just talked about Dark Side of the Moon like a
Mhm.
few months ago. I'll put on my NASA hat for a minute. My vision is really we can talk about what's happening on every level in baseball. And certainly the professional baseball operation, who has billions and billions and billions, could certainly finally say it's above our pay grade, and the people that have been working with us are not those experts, architects, engineers, and designers. Fully acknowledge that you
Mhm.
never had the right team in place. If you're not ready to do that, then sell the team and get some new billionaires in. And those new billionaires will find the right architects, engineers, and designers that finally say, let us see the data and watch what kind of renderings we whip up. And here's where the risks are, and here's where they're not. And here's where kids will come with moms, unconditional love, no strings attached. What a
Mhm.
concept, right? Come
Yeah.
on, people. So it's like we can just make this conversation go. Enough people see that status quo has always been an F. I think we can move on to something else, Jake, and get the conversations going. And we can go have a good time doing something else. So I don't know. I think the writing's on the wall. You've heard that expression before.
Mhm.
We
Oh, yeah.
continue to be logging and archiving and running out of wall space, but we could always get some more walls, right?
And build some more walls and extend some nets.
Build some more walls and extend some nets.
There we go.
I guess so. So this was pretty good. Brianna, did you have any
Right?
questions for Jake?
Yes, Jake, as a
Yeah.
comedian,
Mhm.
do you think humor can make people more open to difficult conversations? What's been your experience with that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously, one of the tenets of comedy is like you can't be fighting while you're laughing. If you're holding your belly and gritting your teeth, I think it's a lot easier to cross some bridges and get things across. I do a lot of work in the alcohol education space as well, and we bring a lot of comedy shows to colleges all over the country. And I think perfect example is if you're sitting in a room full of 18 to 20-year-old, young new frat guys trying to tell them about the benefits of not blacking out on alcohol. We tend to get that point across a lot smoother from memes and comedy and doing, interactive stuff with them than if we were to just like tell them, oh, drinking is bad, drinking is bad, drinking is bad. So I guess the same kind of policy or the same kind of ideas, resonate with me when it comes to this kind of conversation is you have the beauty of everyone loves baseball. They want to be going to see baseball games. You have the Americana of it. So capitalizing on the fun and the happiness and that side of it, I think makes the hard conversations so much easier to have.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jake and
Mhm.
Brianna. I think this is a great recording,
Mhm.
and we'll do it again soon, everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you.